It is a further question whether there are any features essential to humbug or to lying that are not dependent on the intentions and beliefs of the person responsible for the humbug or the lie, or whether it is, on the contrary, possible for any utterance whatsoever to be, given that the speaker is in a certain state of mind, a vehicle of humbug or a lie. In some accounts of lying, there is no lie unless a false statement is made. In others, a person may be lying even if the statement he makes is true, as long as he himself believes that the statement is false and intends by making it to deceive. What about humbug and bullshit? May any utterance at all qualify as humbug or bullshit, given that, so to speak, the utterer's heart is in the right place? Or must the utterance have certain characteristics of its own as well? Short of lying, it must be part of the point that saying that humbug is short of lying. While it has some of the distinguishing characteristics of lies, there are others that it lacks. But this cannot be the whole point. After all, every use of language without exception has some, but not all, of the characteristic features of lies, if no other than at least the feature simply of being of use of language. Yet it would be incorrect to describe every use of language as short of lying. Black's phrase evokes the notion of some sort of continuum on which lying occupies a certain segment, while humbug is located exclusively at earlier points. What continuum could this be along which one encounters humbug only before one encounters lying? Both lying and humbug are modes of misrepresentation. It is not at first glance apparent, however, just how the difference between these varieties of misrepresentation might be construed as a difference in degree, especially by pretentious word or deed. There are 2 points to notice here. First, Black identifies humbug not only as a category of speech, but as a category of action as well, that it may be accomplished by either words or deeds. Second, his use of the qualifier especially indicates that Black does not regard pretentiousness as an essential or wholly indisputable characteristic of humbug. Undoubtedly, such humbug is pretentious. So far as it concerns bullshit, moreover, pretentious bullshit is close to being a stock phrase. But I am inclined to think that when bullshit is pretentious, this happens because pretentiousness is its motive, rather than a constitutive element of its essence. The fact that a person is behaving pretentiously is not, it seems to me, part of what is required to make his utterance an instance of bullshit. It is often, to be sure, what accounts for making that utterance. However, it must not be assumed that bullshit always and necessarily has pretentiousness as its motive. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you guys come in. I was just reading a little bit more of On Bullshit, the world's first scholarly treatise dedicated to the definition and understanding of the use of the word bullshit. Remember, as he's talking about here, bullshit is not just lying or humbug. Humbug is a lighter form of lying. Lying is more malicious, more criminal. Bullshit, as the author develops and discovers throughout this piece of work, can be anything. I mean, you can be shooting the bull, you could be sharing bullshit, you can be bullshitting with friends, or you can be bullshitting a person, which means lying to them directly and taking them for a ride. So there's a lot more to bullshit than you'd think. This is from the Princeton University Press. This is an official academic work on the word and the definition and so on and so forth of bullshit. But let's get started today. Today is Monday, September 3rd, 2018. My name is Thomas Hunt, and here's what's happening today in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is up 0.2% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 7,264, a high of 7,302, and a low of 7,214. That's $1 for 13,772 Satoshis. Let's check out the top 10 altcoins sorted by volume against the price of Bitcoin. Ethereum down 2%, Bitcoin Cash down 3.5%, EOS down 2.5%, Ethereum Classic up almost 4%, Dash down 2.25%, Litecoin down 1.75%, Ripple down about 2%, Qtum down 1.25%, Zcash down about 2.5%, rounding out the top 10. Checking out the top distributed applications, IDEX still in the lead, back up to 2,500 users, leading the entire category. Fork Delta far behind in second place with 1,000. CryptoKitties in third with 400. POW H3D behind them with 350. And Ethereum in fifth place, rounding out the top 5. Checking a look at EOS dApps, because people were interested. PRA Candybox lost 20% of its users, seems to have no users or no EOS running through the system, still about 3,000 users. EOS Nights has about 1,000. EOS Bet around 700. DEX EOS around 300. And new DEX also around 300. It looks like about, I'd say, a couple of thousand, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 active users on EOS dApps. Checking out the most active blockchains, we've got EOS, BitShares, and Steam back to normal. Bitch still experiencing their stress testing in fourth place, and Ethereum in fifth with 54,000 unconfirmed transactions. The Bitcoin blocks are also full, but there's only 12,932 unconfirmed. Checking out our Tallycoin fundraiser, we've raised 0.0784 Bitcoin towards our goal of raising $1 million to help spread the word about Bitcoin. That's 0.06% of the way towards our goal. You can donate now using the QR code on your screen. Checking out yesterday on the World Crypto Network, it was Sunday, kind of a slow day. We did make some progress towards our goal of 61,000 subscribers. We now have 60,909, leaving a mere 91 subscribers between us and the 61,000 barrier. Be sure to subscribe down below. It's free, and hit that bell to get notifications about when we go live. Checking out the shows, we had Bitcoin Talk Show yesterday, a bit of a dramatic and controversial episode. We received 136, make that 137 likes. That's 1,575 viewers. Pretty good these days for a show. So I'm glad you guys could join us. We're in competition with rainy day, relaxing jazz and bossa nova music. Okay, so we're not in competition. Jazz and bossa nova music is crushing Bitcoin. But still, shout out to the music people. We had 22 comments yesterday, quite a lot. Let's see what's going on. Audio Video Tweaker writes, it's funny that Thomas and JW didn't see that the word Seasteading looks similar to the word Seinfeld. They both start with an S. Maybe you're retarded. Maybe you need to go to a special school. But yeah, he thinks the author was trying to make a joke. So that is much better off than the author just unintentionally having a typo or having a spelling correction. Still, the entire article yesterday about the bitch trolls and their belief in their victory was embarrassing for Bitcoin.com. They should take it down. It sounds like they're in favor of trolling. It's not a good look for them. So bad news for Bitcoin.com. Bitten hopes we're more knowledgeable of the motivations of the New World Order and their plans. I don't know. Maybe. Murray writes, thumbs up as usual. Nice to hear, JW. Great show. Thanks for joining us, Murray. Roy Westbacher includes a timestamp. Way to go, Roy. He says, jobs are not easy to get. Do not harm principles are hard to get. These things, these gains are not mutually exclusive, but what one does to make the world a better place is better than the other. And he says it's carnism, not carnivory. Carnivory is nonsense on so many levels. And I'm not sure where we're going with that word and the whole carnivore thing. It does seem like they're meat eaters. I suppose carnivory would be an animal that never eats plants, where humans are omnivores. I'm not sure if that's where we're going with that, but I think that's what it is. Audio Video Tweaker agrees. He says the meat diet is totally insane. Linking it to Bitcoin is not a good idea. He thinks it kind of likens itself to cannibalism, but the meaning is for between animals. and they signed many websites up with this. And I'm not exactly a fan of the carnivore idea. I think it's fine if you want to do it personally. I don't care what you eat. It's not my opinion, but trying to tie it to Bitcoin, having these carnivore dinners, so on and so forth, I don't think that it attracts more women and more normal people to the group. Maybe if they have one of these carnivore dinners and they invite a vegan and they're really nice to him and they let him eat his salad and they don't give him any shit, I would feel differently. But it just seems like we're already in a very restrictive group of people who care about the Federal Reserve, or people who are libertarians, or people who are cypherpunks or whatever, and that we're just restricting ourselves smaller with this focus on thing. All right. People are mad in the chat. Maybe they can't tell the difference between the words Seinfeld and Safety. I don't know. They seem bizarrely different to me. Is it a Jewish reference? Am I not getting it? Some kind of Jewish reference, I'm sure. But Roy Westberger writes 4355 includes a timestamp. This is why he plans to get a made in lefty Silicon Valley car like a Tesla. And there are some other compelling reasons as well. Russell Clark says he can't listen to Weatherman. Everybody's got their own opinion. And S. Mart says, know your place, Weatherman. Thomas is king here. Mustafa's bummed he missed the live stream. He wanted to comment and call in. Remember, if you do watch the live stream, you do get a chance to call in. And I suggest you take it. It's not that hard to call in if you've got like a good question or a good opinion. If you know your name and the place that you're at, it's pretty simple. And remember, we are trying to get to second level advanced talk radio here, where everybody calls in with their speaker down, with their headphones on, their quiet room, with their question. And maybe if we all did 3-minute calls, we'd get a lot more callers in than if we do 15-minute calls. But it depends, because sometimes callers have really good opinions and we just want to chat with them. Other times, we just aren't getting that many calls and we want the show to go a little longer, so we'll hang out with the caller. But just keep it in mind. I think together we can become professional talk show hosts and a professional talk show audience. It's really good stuff. BL Dwyan doesn't like Weatherman's husky voice. He doesn't like macho culture. He says, check out the aftermath of Monsanto's products in Vietnam, or the record of who's the number one consumer of cocaine with ever being advertised. He wouldn't side with corporations. They have a hideous record. So interesting stuff from B.L. Dwyan. A very controversial experience by Weatherman yesterday. But again, controversy is part of what we like here, because it's causing us to discuss more things and to leave our comfort zone and go into an uncomfortable area. And again, that's a possibility to make mistakes, but that's also a possibility for all of us to learn. Some of us think we know everything. It might be better if you know that you know nothing. But that could just be Socrates. So Roy warns us about the opening with the mediumism and the massage. He says, television and ads only have the power we give them. If we let them mindlessly twiddle our brains, they will. But since we're ruled by our subconscious, we're pretty mindless anyway. And there's an interesting argument there about free will versus control, and whether it's just the environment and the situation you're in. Do I want to drink this glass of water, or am I predestined to drink this glass of water? I'm not sure, but if you want to know more, you can check out Sam Harris's interesting book on the subject. It's really small. It's called Free Will. Certainly, it's philosophy. You got to read it slowly. It's heavy language, but it's some interesting ideas. And there is some scientific evidence that before I thought about drinking that water, there was already an electrical impulse in my brain that made me think about it. And where did that come from? So we've got to know. Snowboarder 5,000 or 50,000, sorry, upgrade. He says, I love it when non-religious Westerners wax scholarly on Islam. They know so much about it. That Jay Waterman is like an expert on Islam. And he did seem very much down on the religion. I wouldn't go there myself. I think it's a fine religion. I think it's unfortunate that it's used by extremists. But we have the same thing with the Christian religion. It was used to justify slavery. It's often used to justify mistreatment of the other. So we can go back through history and we can compare which one is which and so on and so forth. But I just don't think we're going to make a lot of progress trying to throw an entire religion off the boat. And I'm generally an atheist here. So, no one's a fan of me on either side. but I do show respect. So. Youssef says, Weatherman, jihad is not killing innocent people like your media has convinced you. Jihad is defending yourself and your land against people trying to rob and cause harm to you. Spreading peace by defending people, even that you're not related to in other countries, if they're under harm. So there is a little pushback to JW's negative definition of Islam. Thank you, everyone, for responding politely and kindly in the comments. I appreciate talking about this. But I don't want anyone to get too upset. I know how what a touchy issue religion can be, and I don't want to contribute to that. But I appreciate that we can have a conversation about it here. So, thanks so much for doing everyone's favorite part of the show, yesterday's comments. Yesterday's comments. And checking out Bitcoin Talk Show yesterday, we had the great video here of the operator connecting the phone and then going back to her book. Funny stuff. A little Frank Sinatra action. If you want to be someone, you buy a Ferrari. If you are someone, you buy a Lamborghini. Frank Sinatra. And then later on the same Jay Leno show, Trevor Noah, the host of The Daily Show now, got to drive a Lamborghini. And he said, Jay Leno, he'll put you on his TV show and he'll put you in a Lamborghini. Don't ever forget that. It was pretty great stuff from Trevor Noah. I finished up the Jack Ryan show. This isn't exactly a spoiler, but there is a major change in the Jack Ryan character within the last 2 episodes of the show. Previously, in most of the other Jack Ryan situations, the helicopter crash which hurt Jack Ryan's back was during a training exercise. As you can see here, it's a North Atlantic Treaty Organization exercise over the Greek island of Crete. And that even here they go into more detail saying how he was addicted to painkillers and that the naval hospital inadequately repaired his back. I'd never heard that section. He did seem to have some issues, but they changed it quite a lot. Just talking in general terms, he is now in many ways responsible for the helicopter crash that hurt him. This changes his character quite a lot. I'm not very pleased with this change. I think it draws him too much into the current event. The way that the events unfolded, the way that the helicopter crash went down, he's no longer as impartial as he used to. As you can see here, this exercise accident with NATO would not make him hate Russia. It would not make him doubt his decisions. He'd be able to go on normal. He's not at all responsible for this. So I think this is a major and perhaps unfortunate change, as well as the kind of again, I don't want to make anyone angry, but there is kind of a token attitude to the religion of James Greer. It seems like it's kind of thrown in. He seems like he references it only when you'd want to reference it and not the rest of the times when it would be inconvenient. So very strange changes in the Jack Ryan show. I did get to the end of it. It felt kind of empty. There wasn't a lot there. A lot of movies since The Firm have ended with a big chase where the guy runs down the street. This movie is no different. If you want to talk about a good movie, you should check out The Fugitive from 1993. I know it sounds stupid. It's based on a TV show, but this movie went on to win Best Picture because it really is so good. Filled with silence, filled with the thoughtful thinking of Harrison Ford's face. Most of his emotions come through just through silence, and he's constantly being chased. The great way that it splits it up into sides, Tommy Lee Jones and his marshals versus Harrison Ford alone. And it's great to see the movie shift, as at first Tommy Lee Jones doesn't care about Harrison Ford and that he didn't kill his wife and so on and so forth. But then he starts to care. He's a cop. He can't avoid the evidence. As the evidence begins to show himself, it makes him upset that the case is wrong. He has a sense of justice. Even if he, didn't care that you killed your wife, eventually he does kind of care. I mean, a little bit of a spoiler, but you know what The Fugitive's about. It wasn't me. It was a one-armed man. Rah, rah, rah. Maybe you don't. Go back and watch the TV show. TV show, not so good. Movie, incredible. Movie, incredible. The Baroness, the ICO Fiasco, and enter Steve Wozniak. Now, we might want to read more from this story. It was really good. It's a great title. We can't read anything today. The FT's taking it from us. But previously, they did let me read parts of it. And those people, remember last year, they were talking about having an ICO, and they said, I am a baroness. I am a person of royal titleage. You can trust my ICO. Well, their ICO never got launched, took a bunch of money, and completely cratered. I'm not sure how Steve Wozniak ties into the story, but it just seems like your average, usual ICO train wreck from start to finish. But this time they had a baroness. And remember, all the media, they reported on this. They're like, Baroness's new ICO, blah 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 blah. And yes, it didn't work out. It was bad choice. I was up late last night for no reason, posting gifs about insomnia, having fun with it. And I'm still here, only an hour late this morning. I think pretty good. I just couldn't sleep. Maybe some indigestion type issues, and then I started watching TV and reading the internet, and then it was like, oh yeah, I'm not going back to sleep, so I just stayed up. Here's Beauty on, who disagrees with us most of the time, but I agree with him here. He writes, the first thing I ever read about Ethereum is that its money supply would increase forever. That's when I totally rejected it. Nothing else about it matters, and all of its other flaws are just icing on the cake. Ethereum doesn't matter in a world without sound money. And I agree with him here. It's strange to see the Ethereum worm start to turn as it struggles to maintain its $300 value, with many people, even Vitalik Buterin, saying that given the current trajectory, it's possible that it goes to zero. It's funny because Tone and I and others have been saying that for years. And we always had questions about Ethereum, which they could always print more, which they could always control the inflation rate, like they just did. Example, they took the rate, they changed it from 3 to 2. They ignored the fact that as the pre-miners, they probably hold a lot of that Ethereum. And by reducing the production, they make their own Ethereum more valuable. So it seems really crooked from the start. I know a lot of my friends made millions of dollars on this thing. So I guess that's a good thing. That's some kind of societal value if they sold. If they sold, maybe a lot of my friends made $1 million and lost $1 million. So it goes, right? Once you've done it once, you can do it again, right? And there's a As if on cue, Jameson Lopp quoting Vitalik Buterin, who agrees with Jeremy Rubin, saying that the value of Ethereum will trend towards zero unless changes are made to the protocol. Once again, they're using this to push through their proof of stake argument, which would again enrich everyone in the pre-mine because it's so much harder to get Ethereum now. And if you have a whole bunch of it, you could stake it and then be paid simply because you have a whole bunch of it. Internet search provider Google is providing a big data window into Ethereum after adding the network to its analytics platform BigQuery, sorry. And I didn't get a chance to go through or find the other blog post, but they did say data from the Bitcoin network was added last year. Let's see, I have to agree to the terms of service. I have you can agree to read them without even looking at them. Oh, that's convenient. It says I can create a project in BigQuery. Okay. I didn't really get closer to the Bitcoin data, so maybe tomorrow I'll be able to find the blog post. But this looks really cool. I want to see visualizations like this, but for Bitcoin. I don't care about Ethereum. The WWF and Viant.io pilot program to improve blockchain supply chain traceability for use in seafood traceability. The report provides a description of work to offer lessons learned and to provide a potential roadmap to develop blockchain supply chain solutions. And let's see, where's the actual paper? It's not there. Anyway, I flipped to the end of the paper and I read the recommendations at the end. This is the best part of the paper, and these are the last 3 or so lines of the paper. Recommendation number 8, ideally data capture should be as automated as possible using passive data capture tools. Less human interaction allows for reduced error and less potential for fraud. This is a big key here. The data capture should be automated. Even then, if it's automated and you can fake it like it's a thermometer and it's in a water jug and I can add hot water to make the thermometer go up, it seems pretty obvious that people will fake it. People will publish bad data in this blockchain. The bad data will then be believed by everyone because of this blockchain marketing thing we're going through. Recommendation number 9, asset ownership permissions can effectively address some concerns of data confidentiality. Remember, most of the data on the blockchain has to be open. It has to be able to communicate with each other. So if your data shows that you're getting fish from somewhere, or you're getting diamonds or gold or something from somewhere, that becomes public data. If you geotag that, everyone with access to that blockchain knows exactly where that geotag is. And if they want to go mine for gold on your land at night or something like that, they could easily do it. So yeah, this is a pretty big error type problem that they're hiding in the last. And number 10, this is my most favorite and most important recommendation. You will not read this if you read the executive summary at the beginning or the conclusion at the end. It's only here in the recommendation section, and it is the last recommendation. Recommendation number 10, blockchain will not prevent the problem of garbage in, garbage out, where fraudulent or false data entered at one point carries through the entire system. However, companies can mitigate this problem by automating data capture and through additional verification and validation, which should be considered early in the development process. Ding, ding, ding. So once again, this is the harder problem. Sharing a database is not a hard problem. We could have a shared database. Locking it down so that less people have access to it, not a problem. But solving the problem of garbage in, garbage out, which IBM claims they've already solved. IBM claims these diamonds are clean because they're on the blockchain. This food is good because it's on the blockchain. The blockchain is a truth machine, according to modern marketing. So this is a big problem with the blockchain. Garbage in, garbage out. They admit it in their own paper, but you have to read the entire thing, or be trained as a history major who knows how to read the beginning and the end of the paper, who knows how to skip to the important parts, who is willing to see the paper as more than just a linear beginning to end exercise, but actually a source of knowledge that you can dip into. For example, you could read the first and last sentence of every chapter. That works pretty good. It's fast too. Oh, we had to retweet. There's been an incredible and heartbreaking fire at the Rio de Janeiro National Museum. They put out a call for photographs of anyone who photographed the collection. As you can see here, dinosaur bones, just incredible loss for the world that this museum completely burned down. The entire collection lost in Brazil. Very sad. And it's time for another Bitcoin talk show. Here we are. We talked about some of the major issues like Google now providing big data for Ethereum, but they also do so for Bitcoin, so no big deal. We read a little of the WWF paper, Blockchain Transforming Seafood Supply Chain Traceability, only if you do the last steps of their recommendation, which most people will ignore. And let's check out the price of Bitcoin. According to CoinDesk and Omkar Godbol, Bitcoin price faces minor drop after 1 month highs. Let's skip ahead straight to the view, see what he says. He still owns no cryptocurrency. We're rooting for you, though, buddy. Bitcoin could be in for a minor pullback to 7,040 or 7,000 in the next 24 hours. The overall bias remains bullish as seen in the daily chart. Hence, Bitcoin will likely defend the support at 7,000 and could resume the journey back to 7,500. A downside break of the rising wedge would signal a bear revival and shift risk in favor of a drop to support at 6,650. Interesting stuff from CoinDesk. Silk Road sell-off. $800 million Bitcoin wallet sees mysterious movement. And a huge wallet containing more than 111,000 Bitcoin, 802 million, suddenly became active after 4 years. Let me guess. They're using it to donate to my Tallycoin campaign. Let me check down here. Is there $1 million in Bitcoin here? Did they send me some of the 111,000 Bitcoin that they have? Our fundraiser here is only for 137. That's hardly anything compared to 111,000. Anyway, the coins go to Bitfinex, and Binance. That means they're likely going to be sold. This could be bad news for Bitcoin. Not sure what's going on. Someone says the owner of the wallet has begun actively moving exchanges of the original hoard. Looks like 114. Feel 100. 11,000 Bitcoin, $80 million have been transferred to Bitfinex, while another 4,421 Bitcoin, $32 million has gone to Binance. This represents 14% of the original funds and more than $110 million. So no one knows what's going on. The wallet could also just be an anonymous bag holder. But if you're looking for the Bitcoin price to go down, somebody moving a lot of money to exchanges could cause the price to go down. As they show pictures of whales here, this could be major whale movement. Still no Tallycoin donations as of yet. We're still waiting. Maybe the whales could make a mistake or copy and paste the wrong address, and the money could accidentally show up here. It could happen, right? Probably not, though, because they built Bitcoin too good. It doesn't ever randomly deliver money to my account, but I keep waiting. Let's see. Year to date, Bitcoin outperformed 3 national currencies despite major correction. Way to go, Bitcoin. What are the 3 currencies? I'm sure Venezuelan bolivar, the Sudanese pound, and the Argentine peso. So there it is. 3 countries that Bitcoin outperformed. Not bad. We've also got the old news on Bitcoin Google search. The price. Here's one I think will make you guys upset. No, Marxism does not explain Bitcoin's value. Maybe you like that, though. Let's see. Trader, breakout imminent as weekly chart turns bullish. So people are getting excited about the possibility of Bitcoin going bullish. Bitcoin is here to stay, so try investing in it. Well, that sounds incredibly reasonable from the mainstream media. From thestreet.com. The breaks resistance to hold above 7,000 from the tabloid express.co.uk. And finally, the Bcash stress results. 2.1 million transactions caused no rise in fees, but no one is using it. Also, they continue to have trouble with Craig S. Wright splitting off to found Bitcoin Cash Satoshi's vision. And is Craig Wright about to cause the downfall of Bitcoin Cash? Yeah, it seems fair to me. Yeah, it seems about right. And no, Marxism does not explain Bitcoin's value. Oh, it's Jeffrey Tucker. It's not a real Forbes article. This is just Jeffrey Tucker. To survivalist in the chat, I've talked a lot about Bitcoin Cash. I think it's a bad idea to steal the name of another open source project. I think that's a bad start for their project. So I'm not a fan. And they're all excited about Jeffrey Tucker being on the Forbes article, getting to slam them and say Marxism. Here we go. Let's see. Bitcoin is valuable because the proof of work method demands some CPU. So yeah, he's into Marx. Let's see. P2P Foundation. Free market theory can't explain Bitcoin's value. Only Marxism can. I don't really know about that. Let's see. Value of all commodities. All right. So this is just too much. Too much. We'll read it another time. We want to thank our 31 patrons for supporting the World Crypto Network with $234 a month at patreon.com/WCN. 31 people support us, and 148 people are watching us live. Be sure to give us a like and a share. Even if you can't donate, you can help spread the word about the show, which really helps us out. Over at the Mad Bitcoins fundraiser at patreon.com/madbitcoins, 75 patrons have raised $441 a month to support this show. And as always, you can support us with the QR codes on your screen right now. We accept Bitcoin and all of the altcoins accepted by Trezor. So thanks so much. And we'll open up the call-in section. Maybe we'll chat with the chat, see what's going on. But it looks like we're also joined by JW Weatherman. JW Weatherman, are you here with us?
I am. How's it going, guys?
It's going good. You missed yesterday's comments, everybody's favorite part of the show. Quite a lot of comments questioning your knowledge of Islam and so on and so forth. Not that we have to start there, but just FYI, you did get some pushback. We had a controversial episode, but I think everyone's okay now, except maybe not 23 Uvas. He might not be okay. Uh,
That's all right. If somebody's not okay, then did I say that right? If somebody's not okay, then we haven't had a good show.
there you
That's
go.
my opinion.
And I think there's a lot to talk about, and we're going to go and open up the phone lines too. So if you'd like to give us a call now on Skype World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518-600-1949. And I don't know where to start us out. Maybe I want to go with the most controversial things first. So of course I'm going to talk about how I was reading a book about Vegas and the mob, and it has nothing to do with anything, but I know all about Vegas and the mob right now. But really, I'm interested in this idea of Louis C.K. Can he come back? The whole Me Too movement seems to be kind of crumbling around. The people that they got rid of are all coming back. Les Moonves got his job back at CBS. Matt Lauer is making some motions. Louis C.K. performed stand-up at a comedy club, and so did Aziz Ansari. It's tough for me because I don't want to say anything that pisses people off, but I'm kind of on the side that these comedians should be able to tell jokes and make money because it's their job. It seems kind of reasonable to me. He spent a year off. Maybe he needs to apologize more or donate to a charity. I'm not sure, but it's a tough issue. And
What
it
did
is
he
out
do
there.
again? I can't remember.
The,
There's
the
so many.
Louis C.K. one is one of the most painful ones because he admitted it and he didn't really apologize and he didn't really say change or he'd go to rehab. But Louis C.K. It started out maybe as a joke, but then it got less and less funny. But he would take care of himself in front of the women. Very, very strange. Very, very strange.
Yeah, so I mean, the just thing to do there is for him to make restitution payments, right? To compensate people that he harmed, and then that's it. That's the end of it. So the idea that like we should embargo these people forever, like they're no longer allowed to have a voice or something, or they're no longer allowed to tell jokes, like that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go, like I'm probably not going to enjoy going to one of his live shows because I won't be now that you've reminded me of that, like I won't get the image of him being a pervert in front of some ladies that are not appreciating it out of my head. So
it's a strange one because they talk about it and they're like, yeah, the owner of the okay, just a second for the calls. We're kind of on to the owner of the comedy club didn't know he'd be there. He wasn't sure if he'd allow him on and so on and so forth. And then they allow him on. And if you're in the audience and a famous but disgraced comedian comes up, should you leave? People feel they can't leave, all that kind of thing. But it seems like their legs work. They could get up and leave the comedy club if they
or just stop going to that comedy club. Like they don't have that's totally fine too, right? Like he can be disgusted by a comedy club having somebody on that's gross and saying I'm not going to go back there anymore.
Yeah, it's like a restaurant. If you don't want to go to that, if you don't like their food, don't go to their restaurant, right?
Right. Or if they serve dog, you can be like, I'm not going to eat there ever again. Same thing. But
I think that's fair. Yeah.
But what's weird is like the whole dialogue is like, well, since we are this fascist state and we burn people at the stake, and we have no functional justice system to address all this stuff, how should we deal with this? It's like that's such a, I don't know. I mean, the answer is
I've heard that mentioned in reviews and people talking about this, and they're like, yeah, it seemed like the movement got going a little fast and that people were convicted without being tried. There's this weird case where Garrison Keillor put his hand on a woman's back. Doesn't seem that bad. I don't know the situation. I'm not there. I can't really judge. I just like Garrison Keillor. And they drummed him out of the business. They shut down his show. They buried him, pretty much, and he's still alive. I thought that was kind of strange. Usually we have like a due process, right, where you look at the case and talk to the people, and also maybe people go to rehab, but that happened as well with Roseanne. They excommunicated her for a bad joke pretty much instantly. There wasn't a lot of deliberation. Remember, swift justice is good, but it's also bad justice. You can get a very fast trial under Stalin. He'll put you down as guilty, and that's it. You don't need any witnesses. It's very efficient.
So. Yeah, is the thing that's happening like people are deciding who they're going to worship, and they're like, oh, we can't worship Roseanne Barr anymore, so she's out. It seems like there's something like that going on because I just don't get it. Like I don't think any of these people are all that brilliant
it
or
seems
smart.
Like
or
in a lot of ways, like having these social media tools accidentally put us on the same level as Roseanne, right? We can make an embarrassing tweet. We can make a popular tweet. So can she. and it put this immediacy to everything where everyone can put their foot in their mouth really fast. And I kind of agreed. John Goodman, unfortunately, he waited till most of this blew over to say anything. But I agree with what he said recently. Is Roseanne a secret racist? Like, have we been fooled for the last 50 years and she's been secretly, doing all kinds of bad things behind our backs and so on and so forth? Because that's the theory presented by the media, that she makes this bad joke. And then all of a sudden we realize she's secretly been a racist this whole time and we must excommunicate her immediately. I saw it more from the beginning as an old lady, which I've already got some pity and so-called, people lose their minds. People are from different generations. They have different upbringings. I know a lot of people who, their grandmother believed in certain things and so on and so forth. You can't blame them from a different time. But we decided to blame her instantly and without any remorse. And, I'm not a right-wing person, so I'm not defending what Roseanne said or anything. Or I just kind of defend her as a comedian trying to make a joke. So.
Yeah, I think the word you use there is exactly right. Like, we're trying to decide who we're going to excommunicate. That's why, like, for me, I'm not part of that religion. Like, I'm not part of American statism or American, quote, Christianity or progressivism or whatever the hell this weird religion that everybody's a part of that I'm not a part of. So I've had like zero interest in this stuff. Like, I don't want to know the background of the guy that pumps my gas or makes my hot dogs or tells jokes. If it turns out that he does something offensive and I do find out about it, it might turn me off to like shopping at his place because, I don't want him playing with himself in front of me if that's what his background is. But other than that, I just, if somebody does something that's a crime, they should have to make restitution for it. And other than that, I just want to buy products that work or are entertaining or whatever. So I don't get because I'm not part of the religion, and Americanism is absolutely a religion. It doesn't connect with me at all.
I watched a review of Ready Player One yesterday, and they kind of talked about this same issue. Not exactly. They talked about the worship of pop culture, and that the book was more referential to pop culture, whereas, even the book, he says, it has kind of a message that maybe you're spending too much time on this. A lot of the book was like, oh, I have to play Joust, and I have to get to level 87 on Joust, which is perfect because I've been practicing Joust for the last 5 years, blah, 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 blah. And it was all about these people that were way too into pop culture. And part of the message in the book was that, like, you shouldn't be so into pop culture. But when it came time to make the movie, they just went crazy with the references. And the Iron Giant, that used to be an anti-gun image and a very sweet cartoon, very emotional, just becomes this robot that kicks butt all over the place. And part of this is because they couldn't get a deal to buy Ultraman, who was in the book, who actually fights giant robots and giant lizards. So it would be much more up his alley. But yeah, very strange the way this pop culture can become kind of a religion. And that is kind of what it feels like, where some of these people in the religion we can't worship anymore. Kevin Spacey is out. Louis C.K. is out. Obviously, the Harvey Weinstein guy, very much out. All the movies he made, kind of questionable now. All the people that worked with him. It's very strange. It has kind of a Red Scare feeling to it. They've painted so many people with this brush of badness. But I think we had a good opening conversation about this and everything else. So let's open up the phone lines again. We had a couple of calls during that period. So if you want to call us right back at 518-600-1949, we'll get you right on the air here. We can talk about Bitcoin. We can talk about Louis C.K., talk about anything, really. Hopefully we won't go back into foreign policy like yesterday, but we're prepared for anything. JW, did you watch any more of the Jack Ryan show? Are you caught up at all?
No, I saw your tweet though. What did you tweeted out something about it that I thought was funny?
Yeah, it was just a kind of a change in the background of the character. Well, let's see in a minute. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Dean calling from New York.
Hey, Dean. How's it going? What's on your mind about Bitcoin today?
Not too much. Actually, I don't want to backtrack, but I was actually at the Comedy Cellar when Louis C.K. performed.
No way. That's awesome, man.
It was a surprise for us, but the owner did, the owner knew he was popping in. They had discussed it. So I don't know what's going on with the owner, kind of playing like they didn't know. But yeah, the backlash, I get it. But I just think this is my concern. I'll be brief. I don't want to take up all your time. I think we have to be very careful. Louis C.K. was rude. He whipped out his junk, blah, blah, blah. He didn't rape anybody. and he should be criticized for what he did. He shouldn't be painted with the same brush. And I just think society's putting everyone in the same basket. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that said, oh, it's the left going after the right. Well, it's beyond political sides. It's this monster of just, there's a real issue here. There's a rape culture. There's, you know, stuff in Hollywood. But now somebody does something very immature and disrespectful, to be frank. They're painted with the same brush, and I don't think Louis C.K.'s life should be ruined. He should be punished. You know, society can judge him, but I'll let you give me your thoughts.
It does seem like there should be some kind of rehab he could go to, or some kind of reprogramming, or, you know, he needs to show that he did wrong and make amends, and maybe just you know, counseling. Maybe he just needs therapy. I don't know, but I think it's sad to throw out someone like Louis C.K. who's so funny. I was watching that Jack Ryan thing. They were shooting doctors, and I thought to myself, oh, what a waste to shoot a doctor. You know, he's so smart. He has all that knowledge. It's like a big brain that we're wasting. And I feel kind of the same way about a comedian. I hate to waste a comedian, especially for nothing, especially when compared to Bill Cosby, right? Bill Cosby hurt those women, took advantage of them. Louis C.K. certainly hurt these people's feelings, and there's a scale for that. But I agree. When I was watching Samantha Bee kind of did a MeToo retrospective yesterday, and I watched part of it, and she had Garrison Keillor and Louis C.K. right up there on the Mount Rushmore with Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein. And I just thought it was so unfair, especially to Louis, and even more so to Garrison Keillor. I don't know his situation. I wasn't there. I can't really say, but it sounds like he touched the back of a woman. You know, it doesn't sound that bad, but, you know, different things.
Well, that's saying that she had Louis C.K. compared to, I mean, Spacey. It looks like allegedly he's basically on the border of being a full-on pedophile. That's disgusting to compare those two in the same boat. That's just wrong.
Well, and even Spacey, I tried to explain it for a while because I've met lots of drama people, and you know, he's a dick grabber, right? He's one of these drama people. He has no limits. He goes around grabbing dicks, but I think it was a lot worse than that. But at some point, I think it started out as kind of that jokey thing, and he was great at acting, and he was powerful, and then it went way too far, obviously. So.
Agreed. Yeah, I just think we have to be careful of that mob mentality. Because again, you know, I probably lean a little bit right. I'm kind of in the middle politically. You know, a lot of my friends, you know, and they had some good cases to bring up, but they were saying, oh, it's always Nick DiPaola, you know, he leans right and he's gotten blackballed from Hollywood. This isn't about left or right, Republican, Democrat. This is about a mob mentality. And it's tough because there's a real issue and there's rape and serious things going on. But we just have to be careful not to ruin somebody's life when it's not on the same level. And hey, Bitcoin seems to be holding 7,000. It's looking good. I hope to God Tonebase is wrong about testing 5,700 again. And I'd like to see us kind of bottom 68, 6,900. And then, you know, build that support again. And I'm going to keep listening. Thank you so much.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Dean, for your call. Very cool that you were at that show. That's really neat.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Hey, so as usual, as the ANCAP in the room, I'm always horrified by the solutions that you guys talk about more than the problems. The whole idea of reprogramming somebody, what the hell? Somebody
I don't know how to describe what's wrong with Louis C.K., but it doesn't seem to be your normal kind of you know, do some community service problem.
No, but I mean, what about the
to
actual victim here, right? Like the whole idea of either reprogramming them or having them do community service, that just leaves the person, like if there's several women that were I mean, it's more than just hurting their feelings, right? Like if you whip out your dong and start playing with it in front of some woman and she's not able to get away from you, I don't know if it's rape, but it's certainly more than hurting somebody's feelings. So it definitely requires some level of restitution.
Well, there might be some kind of criminal program they can put them in. I just don't know. It's such a unique case. It's not It's
See, but that's
bad,
what
but
I'm
not
saying. Like
bad, yeah.
the whole system is set up like we all worship the state, and if we ever do anything that offends our great dear leader, then we have to make restitution to our great dear leader through the criminal justice process. But we completely ignore the victims, and then these people never get to be reinstated because they're never quite welcomed back into the church of state worship the way that they were. You know, they're never ever in good standing again, and these people don't matter to me in the first place. They're not part of my church in the first place. So I want them to make restitution to the victims, and then that needs to be the end of it. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to think they're cool or patronize them and buy their products and all that stuff as much, but that's totally secondary, right? Like their reputation is their reputation. But as far as like what quote society should do about it, it's none of society's business, actually. Like it's none of society's business what he did to a specific woman. That's between that woman, her family, and him, and maybe his family, right? And there needs to be restitution made there. But look, the idea that after that happens, which it's not going to happen, and that's part of the problem, but maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe the guy felt bad enough. Maybe he's written some checks and he's asked them, what do I have to do to make this right? And they've said, and he's done that, right? For all I know, that's the case. But if that happens, then at that point, moving forward, you telling me the guy can't write jokes anymore? Like he should not be able to get a job writing jokes because he's a pervert. That's going to eliminate pretty much everybody that's ever written a joke. So that doesn't make any sense.
Definitely a problem. Caller, hello, you're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Thomas, this is John. How are you, sir?
Doing
Calling from
good.
Arizona.
Hey, John, how's it going? What's on your mind about Bitcoin or Louis C.K. as we're discussing a lot of things today?
Bitcoin, great idea. I've invested in it. Louis C.K., he's a sick fuck, and it's part of a dysfunctional thing. I think no one should be allowed to impose their sick beliefs on other people.
Fair enough.
I like your show.
Thanks so much.
I'm a disabled veteran. Spend a lot of time at home, so shows like this are really helpful.
It's good to have something you can talk to or talk with, and goes all over the place, has different ideas and stuff. And we get a lot of calls from people that are driving truck as well, and they just need something to do that can interest their mind, right? They're driving the truck, but their mind is still going, and that's what I think is great about this show and other shows like is we can talk about anything.
Exactly. Yeah, and your show, it makes you, it makes you think, makes you question a lot of things, and I appreciate that. I think cryptocurrency, the blockchain, is the future, whether people like it or not. I think Bitmain is like a fucking gangster trying to take over the industry, the business, crypto, and I think in the long run they're gonna be humbled in one way or the other. I think they're going to end up shooting themselves in the foot with their greed.
It does seem like they've done that a little already with buying the Bcash, right? So.
Pardon?
It does seem like Bitmain's shot off their own foot a little bit already with their decision to buy so much Bcash and to sell so much Bitcoin.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So they're doing it to themselves, But yeah, when it comes to people, rich, famous, whoever it is, rich or poor, I think people should that impose their sick behaviors on other people. That's not cool. They need to get some fucking help, or check themselves or be locked up, go to a shrink, go to a priest. I don't know. But society has enough problems with people just trying to make it from day to day, working, trying to pay bills, trying to survive without some sick fuck coming along and making things worse.
It does. And it sounds like a lot of this had been prevalent in the industry for a long time. Things like the casting couch or girls having to sleep with directors or producers to get roles, so on and so forth. And people just got tired of it. I agree. It's kind of swung a little far, and it's not quite using a jury system to develop guilt. But certainly I agree with you. No one should ever have to, be in an uncomfortable situation and so on and so forth, especially with their work. So.
Yes, sir. Definitely. But, I'm a veteran. I fought for my country, and, I do volunteer work at the VA, And I see a lot of veterans that are sick and busted up, and they fought for their country. They took the oath. They signed on the dotted line. And I respect other people's beliefs and opinions, but I think it's wise when we show some respect for each other, even if we don't agree with each other.
I agree with that. I think that's the best. And that's a lot of what we've lost in today's environment. People feel so strongly against Hillary, or they feel so strongly in favor of Trump, that they're willing to, say and do anything, and to say that the other person is the enemy. Things like calling the media the enemy of the people, and these things at the rallies, saying that there'll be violence if the election goes the wrong way. These are scary things, and I don't think they're very American. I mean, part of the American thing is, like you're saying, yeah, we go to the polls, we campaign against each other, we disagree on issues, then we vote. Then, for better or worse, we accept the results. And I hope we continue doing that. So.
Yeah, I agree. Respect the office, voice your opinion, vote, but respect the office at the same time. And, the rich and powerful, they wouldn't be rich and powerful without the people, right? So, it's a two-way street to me.
I agree with that. And thanks so much for your call today, John. Give us a call anytime, and thanks for listening.
Thanks a lot. See you later.
Thank you. And you can give us a call now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518-600-1949. And people say we're creating division by talking about Bitcoin or talking about politics, but I don't really know what else you can do. We could pretend that these things aren't interconnected, and that Bitcoin and economy and economics and everything else doesn't reach out like a web around the world. And we could pretend that we're not interested in pop culture, and we could pretend that we're not interested in politics, but that would seem really dishonest. That would seem like, instead of being ourselves, we're being a pretend version of ourselves. So do we have to be our pretend version of ourselves to please you in the chat? Is that all there is? We have to be very square, because I don't think it's going to happen.
I'll chime in with my my political take on all that.
All right, but
don't vote. It's a disaster. You're just encouraging the system. Do not respect the office. There's nothing respectable about the office. These guys are all clowns. They're all criminals. There's no difference between them and the mafia. And buy Bitcoin, because it defunds their sorry butts.
There you go. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. This is Dave from Youngstown. How's it going?
Going good. How's it going, Dave?
Pretty good. I was down this morning at the mighty Mahoning River. I was pulling my yacht out and decided to try something a little different. The weekly rub down was it's onerous. You know what I mean? So I decided I was going to try something different. I spread the refined whale blubber onto a ribeye, and then I used that to spread, rather than a rag, or a chamois, because chamois are kind of expensive, and I don't know, they leave this residue. So, I smeared it all around the whole hull of the yacht, and I think that's going to work for me. I'll let you guys know how that goes. What do you think?
Whale blubber, huh? Yeah, I definitely have problems with my yacht. It's so long, it can't park anywhere. All the other yacht owners complain that I'm taking up too much of the dock. I don't know what to do. I need that space, right?
Is this a reference to seasteading?
The Mahoning is only about, probably, I don't know, 7 feet deep at its deepest, something like that. So I've got a very narrow channel that I can operate in. You know what I mean? So I'm smashing over the little schooners and skiffs and sloops and all those other boat things that begin with S. It's terrifying out there.
It sounds like Gru bought a boat. What is that? A kid's movie?
Guardians of the Galaxy?
No, it's a cartoon. It's really popular. Dang it! Oh well. If anybody has kids, they'll throw it in the chat. It's Gru. All right, I'll do a Google search. Dang it!
But yeah, Bitcoin's up about 1%. We all bought our yachts now, right, Dave?
Oh yeah. We've all been in, since almost the beginning. So, we're all retired and living on our various private islands and such.
Despicable Me. That's the movie reference that came to mind. He has this huge car and he drives around town and just pushes all the little cars out of the way. Yeah.
Nice.
I do aspire to that someday.
I did see Incredibles 2 just pushed Minions off the list for the #1 most grossing animated picture. Interesting stuff.
Huh. Yeah, I've seen those things all over the place, and I don't know. I guess it's interesting being a little older and kind of past the, I don't know, Saturday morning cartoon thing, I guess, or whatever the equivalent is these days. To see all these things pop up all over the place and to have no idea what they are. Like those Minion things. I know it's something kind of pop culturally important, but I couldn't point to where they come from.
They definitely seem to be everywhere, and it's all of a sudden. And I think there's at least 2 or 3 of the movies. I don't know, Weatherman, what's the history of Minions?
Yeah, I mean, it's a kid's movie, but it's pretty good writing. I tell you what, if you're hanging out in the parts of pop culture where Louis C.K. is giving himself a weekly rub down in front of other people, then shift over and check out some kids' movies. They're pretty entertaining.
Maybe we could get him a part in the sequel.
Weekly rub down, by the way.
Very consensual. Very consensual.
Yeah. So Thomas, you mentioned atheism. I'm curious what your history with religion is. If you would care to share it, I'll share mine certainly.
I definitely got in trouble there mentioning everything, but I was raised Catholic like a lot of people, so I know about the Bible and I have a pretty good background in that. I went out on my own. I read about all the other world religions. I think Buddhism is a winner. I'm only into parts of it, but according to the book I read, that's totally okay. If you want to just meditate and just relax and take it easy, I think that's generally a good philosophy. There's a lot of other Buddhist philosophies kind of similar to, the doctor's Hippocratic oath, doing no harm, not affecting other people, being patient. There's just a lot of powerful learning there. I'm not too much into the old monotheistic religions. But I'm also not down on them. I think they can be positive aspects of society. I used to be much more down on them. Ralph Nader, not a fan of religion, not a fan of pop culture or anything. But yeah, that's pretty much where I stand. I don't think about it that much. It's not like an active thing. Maybe agnostic or don't care. I would be more reasonable. Atheist has a militancy to it. I'm certainly not out there with a sign telling people that they're wrong. You can believe what you want. So.
Oh, agreed. I my own history, I guess proceeding from here sort of backwards. Yeah, I definitely was in that sort of angry place, where, people would bring it up and I would feel almost obligated to jump in. These days I'm much more at peace with it, even though I don't, I guess it's it's even still internally contentious for me. It's it's something that I think about and wrestle with. I don't foresee myself believing in the literality of it for sure. I think that there are things that one can take from it that are important. I've found the biblical lectures that Jordan Peterson's been going through. I've found just fascinating, awesome stuff, which says absolutely zero about that this stuff is actually literally true in the same sense that, the capital of Ohio is Columbus, for instance, or if I drive, 3.5 hours roughly southwest of here, I will be in Columbus. That's something empirical versus the ideas that are in there, I think are truth of a different sort. And I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his new book, The 12 Rules for Life, and I thought he did a great job of referencing religious ideas without seeming religious. He was like, this was a religious idea, and it was a good idea because it taught people this, and so on and so forth. And, he wasn't appealing to a higher power. He wasn't like, you have to believe in this because God. He was like, believing in this idea helps you do this, this, and this, which could improve your life, which was what they're getting at in the book. Like, they weren't trying to be like, you have to by force. They were being like, it might be a good idea not to eat the pig because it's not so clean right now. And sure, it's the future now. The pigs are pretty clean. So that kind of thing. But I think we need to get JW Weatherman in here. Go ahead, JW.
Yeah, just to make sure I'm always the least popular guy in the room as the ANCAP non-status, don't respect veterans, don't respect the office of the president. Let's see, how can I eliminate anybody else that doesn't hate me so far? I'm a Calvinist. I completely disagree with everything you guys said, and I think that you guys have more faith in the negative sense of faith, like blind, illogical, non-evidence-based faith, if you buy into the idea of the multiverse, which is a concept that had to be introduced because the math just doesn't work out. There's not enough molecules in the universe for the universe to be like it is without having been designed. So now I've turned off everybody else.
So Calvinist, so that's predestination.
Argument that we obviously if the things were not so laid out as they are, that we wouldn't be here to discuss it.
Sorry, say that again. I didn't catch that.
That's the anthropic principle, though, that we, if the constants and molecules and physical constants of the universe were not what they are, then physical.
No, it's pretty simple, right? Like,
etc. would not be possible, and we wouldn't be here to argue it. So one could postulate that there are other ways those things could sort out, where there are other universes. Or
no, look at all the mental gymnastics that you have to do,
and that there's nobody having these arguments in those places.
Yeah, but look at all the mental gymnastics you have to do, right? If you just start with, hey, there's a really complicated thing here, right? There's this system that seems to be operating. Let's just say a single cell organism, and it is infinitely complex. And then somebody says, well, either that was created or it just happened accidentally. All right, I'm with you so far. That's logical and rational. And then somebody says, well, for it to be accidental, right? You'd have to have, basically the idea is, if you had a box and you threw a bunch of crap in the box and you shook it, how many times would you have to shake it for the things to come together? Right.
Yeah, but I object to this line. I'm not sure that's natural.
You have no idea.
No.
The box has been shaken.
Actually, we do, and that's the problem. And I can prove to you that that's a problem because they had to come up with the idea of the multiverse in response to that. If you read the literature, the reason that we believe that there is a multiverse is literally because our universe
to make the box shaken that many times.
Exactly, because we can now measure the size of the universe. We know how many molecules are in the universe, right? We know how old the universe is. And when you do the math, it just doesn't work out. So in response to that, the answer is there's a multiverse. Well, universe means everything. So multiverse means an infinite number of everythings. And that is a really stupid idea.
And imprecise doesn't mean that.
No. It's
we may have messed up.
No, they mean that.
Finding it at first.
No, they mean this. They mean that these other universes, we could never interact with them. So we can never measure or determine that there is another universe, because if we ever did, that would just be realizing that our universe was either deeper or wider or broader. They literally mean another existence that we could never interact with. That is the most religious, metaphysical thing that you could ever possibly believe, because by definition, you could never test it. You could never verify it. You could never interact with it. And it is a complete logical leap that comes up with all kinds of really obviously stupid implications. For example, if there's an infinite number of universes, in this moment, you need to shoot yourself in the head or you're going to die. That's nonsense, right? Or better yet, if you're driving, you immediately need to eat your steering wheel because it's about to turn into ice cream. And if you don't do that, you're going to get hit by lightning. But if you do, you're not, right? Like there's nothing stupid that you could say. Right. There's no stupid idea that you could possibly conceive that isn't true in one of these universes if there's an infinite number of universes. So the reason that I don't buy any of that stuff is that I just look at it and go, well, wait a minute. We had two logical options in the beginning. One was that this thing was put into action by somebody outside the universe, like an entity. Aristotle's unmoved mover put the system into place. that was one of our options, right? And one of the other ones was that it happened randomly. We've completely eliminated the possibility that it happened randomly. So, you know, I don't think that I'm taking a leap of faith here.
Maybe we have, maybe we haven't. We could put a pin in that for now, but does that then lead us necessarily to what the nature of that particular unmoved mover is?
No, that's a totally different question. But what we start out with is, does God exist or not? And then but then you're right. The next logical question is, can we know anything about him? And maybe the answer is no. I happen to think the answer is yes, and that there's reasons to believe that. But I think the first question is
when interesting aside is are there people that do believe that the answer to that is there is such an unmoved mover, and that no, we cannot know anything about it?
It's possible. Like I would say it's logically possible, right? Because if the universe was created, there's no reason to believe that that necessarily that creator would have ever communicated with us or bothered to communicate with us. So yeah, it's totally logical.
Knows anything about us or can see into that universe that they created or anything.
Well, I think that you'd be hard pressed to think that there would be a being so powerful that they could create a universe, but not be able to interact with it if it chose to. But I don't know. Like, these are the sort of things that
you could do that.
No, I don't think I could create a universe.
You could set something up that has some kind of, ostensibly random process inside that you can't figure out.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about questions like this is that we don't even know what's possible and what's not possible, right? Like we're so limited on a question like that. Like we don't know, for example, if there even could be another universe that's in any way different from ours, right? Like, is it possible for a universe to hold together and exist in any way and us not have this conversation right now? We don't even know how to go about really exploring that in any side, in any good way. But I think the Calvinist perspective, right, the traditional Christian perspective, is that God did create the universe, put it into place, and then chose to reveal himself to us through evidence, right, through miraculous acts.
Just lied Calvinism to all of traditional Christianity.
No, there was a comment in there.
Okay.
I mean,
so JW, can we say you're kind of like a deist? You're kind of like the founding fathers. There's a clockmaker God that puts everything into work, and then he steps away.
No. I think the Bible's accurate. I think that God put things into place. He revealed stuff that he didn't need to reveal to us through prophets that created miracles to authenticate themselves. And then later in the New Testament, there was an incarnation where God himself in some way became man, and then the prophets and or the apostles, basically elucidated more the teachings of Jesus. So I think all that's accurate.
All right. It's a different direction than I thought you'd go. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, go ahead if somebody wants to go.
No, you got it, Dave. Give us a closing and we'll try to move on.
I'd just like to state that I think this is this is how we need to be having these conversations. That I'm not trying to impose anything on anybody. I don't feel like JW or Thomas are trying to impose anything on me. I think what the moral implications of it or whatever, we can hash that out at some point. But I think that so much of I find this fascinating. I'm not sure about how you guys think about it. I think I've found common cause with you that you also find it fascinating. But I find it just trying to talk to other people about these sorts of things is just it's fraught with terror and anger and hostility and these sorts of. Am I making sense?
Yeah, totally, man. No, I mean, I think part of the reason that that it's easy for me to talk about stuff like this, like I think if there was, I don't know, depending on who if there's somebody that believes that God exists, depending on who they are, I would say most of the time the reason that it gets so heated is that they don't actually believe God exists. When they say believe, they mean something like took a leap of faith. which is redefining the word believe. Like, I believe I'm sitting here talking to you right now based on the evidence. I'm not stressed out about it, right? Because I may be wrong. I'm relying primarily on logic, that my brain is functional, and then on the evidence that's been presented and my ability to sift that evidence to come to conclusions. So I can be pretty chilled about it and be like, yeah, maybe I'm not sitting here in California right now, right? And maybe you could prove it to me. But I'm not going to be emotional and freaked out about it because it's you know, it's I'm not pretending to believe something that I don't, I think, is what it comes down to.
Sure.
Remember, the key, if you want to get out of it, you just have to reach up and pull the goggles off.
Reason.
Yeah, exactly. Reason is more fundamental to my belief system than anything else. So I'm totally cool with exploring it. So somebody said, let's talk Bitcoin proof of authority. I think one of the things that's interesting about this topic is that we're talking about like authentication, right? Like if God exists, how would he authenticate himself to us? And, I'm saying, well, he would have to do something that proves that he could do something that nobody else could do, right? So that would be a case for a miracle. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about a lot of these problems and how they relate to software problems, right? How do I know that I'm talking to Thomas right now? The only way is if he had a private key and he could sign some data and send it to me. So it's still kind of the same fundamental question.
I also like this idea that we're talking about creating universes, and maybe in a way, Vitalik Buterin created his own universe of Ethereum. It affected the world. People went up in value. All kinds of consultants made money. Everybody thought it was going to last forever. It doesn't look like it's going to. But I think that's an interesting comparison to try to tie this back in. And then also, I'm not sure if JW agrees, but we might be in a virtual reality simulation. That's the closest I'd go to what you're saying, that there isn't natural solution and so forth. What
would be the difference? Like, we already know.
That was going to be my question too, is how is there any functional difference between the two?
Yeah, exactly. You're okay if God created a virtual reality simulation, but you're not okay if it's not digital. Like, what exactly?
It's more likely man created it. I don't know. It's more likely that we're in some kind of man created matrix type system because we've screwed up the world and that we're actually living in a false reality. I don't know. I mean, this is what happens when we talk about these things. Sure. No one knows. I'm not saying I know this.
Go on. I have a point. Go on.
Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not, to me, it's never a question of whether I'm okay with what the actual nature of the universe is. It was more like, well, why do I have to go to this place and listen to these boring people and have them threaten me with physical harm, which I don't like? Why do I have to put up with all that? Oh, it's because God said so. Well, what's this God thing? Oh, okay, well, God is a blah, blah, blah. So it's trying to back off the whatever your justification is for hurting me. That's how we get to the core of it, as far as I'm concerned. I don't, if I'm fine with if the universe is created or is virtual and created by some super powerful entity or, some limited super powerful entity, whatever it is. It's a matter of that the people who were imposing shit on me, that, they were obviously had no idea what the fuck they were talking about. And as far as I was concerned, had no right to be telling me what to do, how to live, and most of all, that they could harm me for, what they couldn't justify. Does that make sense?
No, it totally does. That's a great point. And I think that's probably a big part of why these conversations get heated, because as a Christian, I think that I'm not allowed to steal or kill, right? Like, it's very basic 10 Commandments type stuff. And I also don't think that voting, democracy, is somehow like this new holy water that was never addressed before that we came up with, that substantiates theft into taxation, or kidnapping and murder into conscription and war, right? Like, I just don't buy any of that stuff. So I'm not a member of the American church, right? What I think of as like American Christianity. If I was, it would be a totally different conversation, because I would be trying to convince you of all kinds of things that would lead to circumstances where I get to do terrible shit to you. So that's a huge point, man. I hadn't thought about
And
that.
not just get to do terrible shit, but feel, sleep the peaceful sleep of the just while doing it.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
Well, and also most religions baptize people when they're babies. You're meant to be brought into the religion. It seems like as hard as it would be waiting till people are 10 years old or 12 or 14 or something before you dump this on them. But then that could be said for politics or any other kind of value system. And then
Yeah,
it's into the school, the church, the home,
right.
Who's teaching the kids, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the real, if you don't like that idea, what you really don't like is fatherhood, right? You don't like the idea that somebody can create another life and then educate that life on how to behave, which I'm definitely not.
I wonder too, though, because it's so hard. You teach someone to, be good and not kill. They go out and kill. I think it would be hard because you want to teach someone like, hey, you're gonna like this band, or hey, you're gonna like this because you're my kid, and then you teach them and it totally backfires. So it's a fraught process. I think it's really hard.
Yeah, parenting is brutal. But the question is, who gets to do it, right? A lot of people, I think, a lot of statists would say that the government gets to do it, right? Like it takes a village to raise a child, which really just means the government owns babies and gets to decide what to do with them rather than their parents owning babies. And unfortunately, there's not an ideal solution there. We have to, like for me, it's not even a question I have to answer because I don't get to impose my my beliefs on other people, right? Like if I was to if you were teaching your kid about Islam and I was like, that's twisted, I'm not okay with that. Like you're not going to teach jihad, and then I was to do anything about that, like either kidnap you or kidnap your kids or put you in re-education or whatever. Like I just don't think that I have no reason to believe that God's given me the authority to do that. So it's not even a question of like what's the best way to manage this situation. It's just not my business. But if I was a statist, then I would have to answer some really hard questions, right? Because I would think that my ability to impact other people's lives is completely unlimited. So what should we do about somebody that wants to teach their kids Islam, or maybe not Islam? Let's pick on something else. Scientology. Everybody hates Scientology. So what do we do about Scientology? Like some guy has a 2-year-old and he's teaching them about, I don't know, holding the buzzers or some crazy stuff. For me, the answer is that really sucks, but that's nothing I can do about it. What about you, Thomas? You're pretty unlimited in your ability to interact with other people's lives, I think.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. What was the exact question? I was listening.
What do you want to do about somebody that, let's say they have 4 kids under the age of 8 and they're teaching them Scientology? Like, how do you sleep at night not doing something about that?
Well, it's tough. And I mean, as we were talking about it before, you said there aren't any requirements to procreate. Pretty much 2 people that want to do it of opposite sexes can take care of business and get it done. Maybe this leads to the idea that we need to have some kind of a state education system where, in case these people aren't educated and aren't interested in taking on the educational job, because, just as you would want to teach your kid values that you like, maybe they don't care, right? They don't want to teach their kid any values. They're just not interested in that at all. We're going to have some kind of a substitute. So they're going to have to go to school. As far as the 2-year-olds teaching them Scientology, unfortunately, in the American society, it might just come down to money. If they have the money to stay out of trouble, and if they have the money to afford to stay home and teach their children, which is quite a thing, most people have to work during the day. I don't know. It's all that child welfare stuff. Like we're going to check up on them. And if they're making them hold on to snakes and they've got bites on their arms and so on and so forth, they're being endangered. But we don't exactly have that for psychological ideas. They could put a lot of bad psychological ideas in people's heads. So I think for me, I got to bow out and go back to that idea of freedom. And I just got to let other people do their things, and I can't be so judgy on them. I think that's where I got to go. But
why? I don't understand. Like philosophically, why would you go back to that? You don't necessarily think that it's are you taking the pragmatic reason? Like I'm taking the religious reason. That's my primary reason for not thinking that that's either my problem or my opportunity.
See, without a religious reason where I can go absolute and I can say, well, my religion's the best, so all of them should be taught this religion. And if you're not teaching them that, you're obviously doing a disservice to them because, my religion is the best and it works or whatever. So without that, I don't have a standard to judge the other people. So I have to
No,
judge.
no. I mean, I'm saying that because of my religious beliefs, I don't think that I can impose anything upon them.
Well, that's interesting from a religious perspective. A lot of religious people are more about spreading the word. Like, for example, the Jehovah's Witnesses. They go door to door telling people about their religion because it's the best. I respect them for that. When I found Bitcoin, again, we're talking about Bitcoin as a religion, I went door to door on YouTube telling people it was the best. Every day I get up and I say, hey, Bitcoin is the best. I think it's going to change the world for the better. I like sound money. I also like, things on my computer, things on my phone, things that I can send around. So that's what I did, but I didn't do it like in an overt way. I wasn't like, stop doing what you're doing, stop using your thing, get on this Bitcoin thing. I was more like, hey, you should try this thing. And I think in the same way, unless their religion was hurting the kids, which is hard to prove, especially psychological, probably got to let them try it. Basically,
You did prove it, though.
What's that?
You did prove it. And then what?
That Bitcoin's that they're bad. Oh, well then,
yeah.
Then we got to piss everyone off, and the state's got to take those kids away, and then the kids got to go. Yeah.
Well, what's amazing to me, like about you, Thomas, is that you're a statist and a Bitcoiner, and the whole point of Bitcoin is to defund the state. Like the white paper references it. Satoshi talks a lot about the need for it, right? Austrian economics, which everybody that was an early Bitcoiner was a fan of. The whole cypherpunk movement, right? Like just go straight to the cypherpunk movement. What was it about? It was about creating a Galt's Gulch. It was about creating a place where the state didn't have power that would ultimately weaken the power of the state, maybe beyond recognition. So you're not going to be able to solve these problems in the way that you want in the future if Bitcoin's adopted. But actually, you're not in bad company, because I think Andreas Antonopoulos is also essentially a statist in many ways. Like he wants to be able to do things like punish people if they don't hire the right ratio of like women in their companies, right? Weird stuff like that.
Yep.
That how are you going to enforce that without a state? Yet you're working so hard to destroy the state that you love so much. It's just interesting to me. I mean, like I said, I don't think that you're in bad company. I think there's a lot of smart people that are doing that same thing. But
I think part of this has to do with the Bitcoin revolution and wanting the revolution to actually work. So I've studied all previous revolutions, and basically I think the French Revolution is one of the best examples. The people have the best ideas, they have good ideas, then they start chopping off rich people's heads, then Napoleon rolls in and takes the whole thing over. And if you look at it from a certain perspective, I see it more as Napoleon's revolution. He's the one that took power. He's the one who benefited. He even put down the law code, Code Napoleon, the law code.
Yeah.
So I don't see government or the state as defaultly a negative thing. I think a lot of the libertarians are like, the state is bad, it only does bad things. I look at the state more of a pragmatic thing.
But how do you think the state is going to get its funding? I get it. I hate the state. You love the state.
No, I don't. Again, that's a false dichotomy. I don't love the state.
Furthermore, don't mischaracterize what libertarians, or at least some of us, think about the state. It's not that it only does bad things. It's that it does mostly bad things and occasionally does a few good things. And some of the good things it does, it takes over in order to do the bad things that it would like to do. And in order to show that, hey, we're doing all these good things, you don't want us to stop doing these good things, do you?
But the alternative is no state, and that's never worked. All that really does is create a power vacuum for the next dictator to roll in.
Hey, you know what else has never worked? A digital decentralized currency, non-politically issued by any central bank.
Sure, but that has technology, and I can tell you in the past that even when it didn't seem like it could, technology like the MP3 or the internet rose to prominence because you can spread technology in a different way than you can spread non-digital things.
But that's the whole point of the cypherpunk movement. Like the whole point of the cypherpunk movement is, yes, Thomas, you're right. Every time there's been a violent revolution, even if it was even the American Revolution, I would argue the Americans were less safe after the Whiskey Rebellion than they were before they rebelled, right? The same thing with Napoleon. Like all of that's acknowledged. And then the whole idea is the cypherpunk movement is saying, okay, instead of trying to do a seastead or, you know, some kind of violent revolution, we're going to create technology that just changes the nature of the playing field so that the state will just starve to death.
Well, exactly, and that's why it's such a good idea because it takes it down from the inside, and it's the first kind of bootstrapping
But you don't want
that
to take it
acknowledges
down. You want it to
I
thrive,
don't
because
I'm
otherwise
well, no,
you're not going
I
to be able
don't
to implement
care.
your policies.
It's okay, well, I've been warning people that it can take down war, which I want to do. I want to stop
Nice.
war. I want to stop buying bombers and those things. I've also been warning people lately that it takes down disaster relief.
Yeah.
Right now, when you see Bruce Springsteen raising money for Katrina or whatever, it doesn't really matter if you donate. Somebody's
Right.
going to get that money there, even if the government just has to print it. In the future, these fundraisers will be it. If you don't donate to Bruce Springsteen's Katrina fundraiser, they're not going to be able to rebuild. They're not going to be able to do whatever they need to do, feed the people, whatever it is. So people are going to have to be much more charitable when they understand that that's the only way to get the funding. But in the same way, the war machine will also have to fundraise for the funding if they want new missiles and so on and so
I
forth.
think I might have just figured it out, the solution to this, because this has been plaguing me ever since I've known you. I think what you want is basically a voluntary homeowners association with policies that you think are reasonable, such as maybe you can't make your kids chant religious nonsense for 7 hours a day or something, right? And if you could join that homeowners association that had those policies, you'd be content, and then it would have to be funded voluntarily, which means it's not really the state anymore in my mind, but it accomplishes the things that you want to accomplish, and it's voluntary participation. Is that the solution to our sort of debate here?
Yeah, I think that seems fair, and that seems also like something that we couldn't develop without going with this sideways way of building Bitcoin inside the current system. If we broke off completely to the side, there'd be some kind of dictator. If we create a power vacuum, there'll be some kind of dictator. It's only through this transitional bootstrapping that we could perhaps, and again, I'm not saying this is going to work because I've studied all the other revolutions and they don't work, but perhaps we could have a revolution that actually delivers on its promises.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I got to remember that when I talk to you. I wonder if Andreas is in the same boat.
I can't speak for him, but I imagine he is. I mean, it's the kind of thing where, discrimination is unacceptable. If you don't like somebody because
I love discrimination. Like, my homeowners association is going to be 100% discriminatory in every way. But if as long as nobody in your homeowners association is going around with guns forcing people to participate or move in, dude, enjoy your non-discriminatory, very involved in people's lives space, and that's totally cool.
And it seems fine. You could live in the more anarchist one. I could live in one with more rules. Andreas could have more rules if he wants the sexism thing taken care of, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, though. This is another litmus question. Are you okay with people opting out? Like, if they're part of your system, do they get to opt out and still keep their stuff? Unless it's like, homeowners association where everybody is like, their houses are really close together. But let's say it was a huge piece of land and people's property was apart. Could they opt out of your system and still and not pay the dues and not have to be subjected to your rules, as long as it wasn't, theft and murder, which are universal rules that we have to enforce?
Yeah, it's tough to say because a lot of this, you don't want to say it, but maybe it is. It's a protection racket, right? They need to pay protection so that we can do some kind of a, top level protection thing, have, a general,
I thought we were together, and then you turned into a mafioso again.
Well, I don't like, if the idea is to better our society and have a better society for everyone, then I think most people are going to have to opt in. I think that.
So you're going to have to. So we're going to have to force people
to leave. Is that what the? I mean,
I think that basically what JW is describing with all these kind of clans, and I think the most important book to read on this is still Snow Crash. It's a sci-fi book, but in Snow Crash, the corporations are equal to the governments. So you can live at KFC, you can work at KFC, you get your pension from KFC, you probably use KFC's internal digital currency, so on and so forth. If you're a man without a company or man without a clan, I don't know that you're benefiting or you're contributing to the society. So if you're not contributing to the society, why should you get the protections of the society? also, if we're going to have trouble, it's probably going to come from those people. So I think it's very difficult to work in an opt-out system in this, because sure, if I couldn't pay for the protection, then I wouldn't pay, right? I would totally opt out. And then there's a bunch of freeloaders, and then you have that freeloader problem. So
there's no freeloader problem, but yeah, man, you're still a statist. You still think that people should be shot or kidnapped if they don't want to participate in your system, and that's unfortunate. But we'll keep talking, man. There's still
talking in the chat. They're saying, I prefer Mad Bitcoin's world to the Mad Max world. And I really do think, yeah, there's a world out there where, you know, you're working your moisture farm and you're farming, and then one day someone shows up with a shotgun and they kill you, and that's it. And I would like a little more protections than that.
You'd like that person to have a badge on.
Well,
yeah, there you go.
A system of accountability.
Awesome chat, man. I love being able to jump in here. I know, obviously, it looks like JW is a conversational contrarian. Crypto Daddy, you suck. I don't know who you are, but you suck. But it's been fun to be able to jump in here and just chat about whatever. Like, I mean, this has been totally a blast. We talked about like all kinds of random stuff, and the callers. This is really cool. So hopefully I'll be back on, you know, a semi-regular basis to flip Thomas some crap and have an interesting conversation, because you guys are all you're an intelligent group of folks to chat with. So it's a pleasure.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, JW.
Love it, both of you. Thanks very much. I enjoyed it a great deal. That was made my whole Labor Day weekend, to be perfectly honest.
All right, Dave. Well, I feel like we got in trouble, but hopefully we didn't get in that much trouble. It's hard to speak about these.
Hey, your show's going to be on tomorrow, right? So how much trouble are we going to be in?
Well, that's the beauty of this, is that the reason that we can go to every topic, and the reason we can do all this, is I don't have a producer whispering in my ear, get them back on topic, talk about the hash rate. Like, it does, you know, we are here to explore the ideas of the world. I think Bitcoin's very important. I don't think it matters if I'm a statist or a cypherpunk or a libertarian. I think we can share that we agree that it's important and it's going to change things. So.
Totally.
All
Awesome.
right.
All right, guys. I got to go, but it was awesome.
Thank you very much, the both of you.
All right. Thanks for joining us, JW. And thanks for joining us, Dave. I think we might head towards the end of the show. We got pretty controversial there, unless you guys want to talk us back. I don't know. Guy in the chat says, Thomas believes humans are bad. I don't believe humans are bad, but I do think that's an important question. I think that's one of the most important questions is, are we good? Are we bad? Do we have options? Is it the environment that we're put into that makes us good or bad? Do we start out good or bad? So a lot of good stuff today. I think we pretty much covered it. We talked about Bitcoin. We talked about politics. We talked about religion. Talked about Ethereum. Everyone's calling at the same time. Let's see. Let's try this.
And we talked about Bitcoin. We talked about.
Okay, somebody's got to turn their speaker down. 50-50 shot. Let's try you. It was his speaker. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from? Oh, the Skype.
Thomas Stan from Grand Rapids. I'm a little bummed that Weatherman is gone, because
Go ahead.
he was who I was wanting to talk to. He was who I was wanting to talk to, but I got sort of two thoughts. One was I know that both you and he are really anti-technical analysis people, and I was thinking about it the other day, and I thought to myself, I believe that we can anticipate the movements of large groups of people given their psychology. So I think that's well known, right? You yell fire in a crowded room. You don't know what any one individual person is going to do, but you can have a pretty good chance of anticipating the actions of the group.
Sure. I think technical analysis works on the real stock market because there are so many people involved. There are so many buyers and sellers, and the market is so thick with the volume and so on and so forth. It's hard for a single buyer or a single seller to come in and rock the market. The problem with an emerging market like Bitcoin, and this is why they say in the technical analysis books that you're not supposed to do technical analysis on an emerging market, is because a single person can come in and wreck your entire chart. A single person can buy up this market or sell up this market, and cause it to change. And they can cause the trend to change. They can cause all these lines to change. And then all these lemmings just follow the lines. And I don't think it benefits them. I think that if you look at something like Bitcoin, you have to look further back at the fundamentals. And basically, we're just taking a big risk. We're all saying Bitcoin's going to be useful in the future. That's what I'm betting on. That's the risk right there. All this other stuff is trying to make you feel better about your big risk. But really, if you want to play this to the end, you need to be one of those people that says, I'm going to make a lot of money on this, or I'm going to make nothing. And you just hold it, or maybe you make a little bit, you know, sell some profits and so on and so forth. But the long hodlers from the beginning who just bought Bitcoin for almost nothing and held it have lots of money now, and they didn't have to do any charting or any trading to get that. So.
Right. And I guess I agree with that. I just think I disagree with the people that, and maybe you're right about Bitcoin. Maybe there's not enough volume in the market. At the same time, I think that the people who dismiss it outright and say that there's nothing to it, it doesn't work, it can't ever work for anything. That just feels like a sweeping generalization, and people haven't done, like I say, my thought always comes back to, I believe that you can anticipate the future movements of a large enough group of people, and really all you have to do is you have to be more right than wrong, because it's not about getting every call exactly right. It's simply about getting more of them right than wrong. And if I can ease some of my losses, but the thing is that I've been trying to do this, and it's an emotional game more than anything else, because when you're on the wrong side of a trade, you have to pull out, and when you get caught up in the FOMO and you buy in at the wrong time because you're afraid that you're going to miss out, and essentially you really have to, I think that very, very few people can actually make it work. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. So just my thoughts on TA. I did have you guys earlier in the show were talking about anarcho-capitalism and libertarianism and things like that. And the one question that I've always had for an anarcho-capitalist was, what do you do about shared resources? You know, and you guys are talking about, oh, your neighborhood and his neighborhood and things like that. But for example, what happens when somebody starts clearing all of the trees out of a national forest? What if some company starts poisoning the water upstream? And the answer usually is, well, you can sue them and you can get money from them. But what if they decide not to pay you? What if they decide not to do those things? And there's this panacea about getting rid of the men with guns, but the problem is that force is really the only ultimate authority that anyone has. And if you can just say, oh, well, I'm going to stop buying products from this company because they're messing up my well water, well, that's fine. But the millions of other people around the world don't care about you. So like, I don't know how they expect those things to kind of get resolved.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's hard for me to speak for him because he's not here, but I'm sure he would have a perfect answer for this. For me, I just have to go back to history, and I have to say, why did we even start police departments? We started police departments to stop feuds, right? The feud would get so out of control because they would steal from your family, and they would steal, and they would kill, and they would steal, like Romeo and Juliet, right? Where pretty soon they kill everybody. And nobody's making any money. Nobody's making any crops or anything anymore. They're just killing each other forever because there's this feud. So you needed a third party to come in and say, stop this feud, like they did with the Hatfields and McCoys in the United States with Wyatt Earp and all that. So that's what the police department at its very base was for. And I think that a lot of people just gloss over these problems, or they think that people won't be mean or cruel to each other, or that I won't poison the river just because I'm above you, and that I won't, use child labor in my factories till the kids lose their hands and then I just kick them out the door. Those things have all happened, right? We can all historically point to clear examples. The Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, they had no fire escapes and they locked the door. So all of the women who worked as seamstresses in that fire died, right? Because the businessmen locked the door. Maybe they were trying to save the building, right? But we have clear examples of governments and corporations being completely out of control, and that's why we need restraints on them. But like you say, that's also why we need a third party to go to, someone to stop our feud. So.
Well, and even I guess even he was talking about it's got to be opt out or something like that, and people have to have the freedom to move out of your neighborhood if they don't like what your neighborhood is doing. Well, what if they don't? What if in one neighborhood slavery is okay? What are you going to do in your neighborhood to force them to stop doing that? And if now you're talking about forcing them to stop doing something, you're right back where we started from. And so I feel like there's this great ideal of everybody lives on their own little chunk of land and nobody ever bothers anybody else. But I don't know. The world doesn't seem to work like that to me. It's messy and ugly, and people are constantly trying to take advantage of other people. And unless unless you have a consideration to plan for those people that don't want to think like you do and don't want to listen to what you have to say, it's just like, I think it's a lot like with Bitcoin. The censorship resistant of Bitcoin is not to make sure that the people who have something popular to say can speak it. It's that those that have something unpopular to say can speak it. So I don't know. I think that that's true, and I do worry about. I think that the most interesting things in Bitcoin are things like, well, what if we get pornography on the blockchain? What if we get child pornography on the blockchain? What if we get a printable gun plan on the blockchain? And what happens then? And I think it is important that the blockchain remain immutable no matter what. If you agree with it, if you disagree, if North Korea buys an aircraft carrier from China and it's on the blockchain, it needs to stay on the blockchain. So yeah, those were just my thoughts on those couple things. I've been struggling with this anarcho-capitalist thought of we're all going to live on our own islands, and those islands are never going to have to interact. I don't see how it doesn't become a government all over again,
I think so. I think it's the same old thing, and they can't see it because they haven't run the experiment long enough. But if they ran the experiment longer, they would get what they always got. And this bums them out. And I wish it would work. I like it when they describe it. It sounds very idealistic. When I was a kid, I read all the Ayn Rand books. I was big into this idea. We were going to live separate from everyone else. And when I got out to the real world, I found that everything was about connections, and everything was about people helping each other and working on teams and to accomplish greater goals. And I didn't find any of that in Ayn Rand. The only goal they seem to be accomplishing is removing people from society so that society collapses. That's a terrible goal. And even when they get to their own small society, it's going to be like, to reference Rick and Morty, one of the greatest shows on TV right now. In the Rick and Morty universe, where all the Ricks get together on one planet, some of the Ricks have to take the garbage out for the other Ricks. A bunch of the Ricks have to serve the Ricks. And as you can see, this completely fails the whole libertarian beauty of being a Rick, right? You get to do whatever you want. But if you live in a community with other Ricks, suddenly it doesn't matter that you're incredibly smart and that you can build all this stuff. You have to work as a garbage man because somebody has to take out the garbage on the Rick's planet. So I think there's a lot there to think about in Rick and Morty. Oh, but what do you think, caller? Is this the reason why there are no libertarian representatives? Oh, the caller's gone. I'm here alone. No. But we've got lots of good questions in the chat. We'll try to keep this going. Maybe 10 more minutes. Keep it going till 12 o'clock. We got a bit of a late start today. I was up late last night for no reason, and then I slept in. So there it goes. Why did you move into a neighborhood with slavery, bro? And is Bitcoin true socialism? I'm not sure about that because Bitcoin doesn't really have a redistribution system in it. Certainly, Satoshi could have written something like every day that you hold Bitcoin, $1 of your Bitcoin from the rich is taken and given to the poor. That would be more like a socialist version of Bitcoin. What I think Bitcoin is actually a workable version of the libertarian system. Like JW and I have been discussing here, the different ideas about voluntarism, being forced to do something, what we can agree on, what we don't agree on. It seems like when it comes to Bitcoin, this is the smallest amount of rules that we can agree on to have a monetary system. We can agree that no country should be able to print more Bitcoin just out of nothing, right? That's the current system. They just print it out of nothing. We agree that there should be a limited number of Bitcoin so that no matter what happens, there's only this number. We agree that there should be a deflationary structure to Bitcoin with the amount of Bitcoin produced cutting in half every 4 years. We agree that Bitcoin should be sent one direction and never canceled because that just complexifies the whole thing. That's about it. That's all we can really agree on. We can kind of agree on the dev team to do it and that we should have a scientific process to improve this thing with discussion and debate and a mailing list and so on and so forth. But that's it. We really can't agree on anything else. We can't agree on child labor. We can't agree on religion. We can't agree on political choices, all these other things. But I think we can agree on these rules for money. And what I like about the Bitcoin rules for money is they're just the same if it's me in America or if it's some guy in Russia or somebody in Venezuela. You can't print any more Bitcoins either. If you buy expensive computers and you run them, certainly you can print a little bit of Bitcoin. But that's, again, a rule that we've agreed on. You have to buy an expensive computer. You have to, take on the difficulty curve. You have to mine if you want to make Bitcoin. No government can simply grant you Bitcoin. So I think similarly, our society is going to be one of those where the minimum number of rules that we can agree on. JW is saying his religious ideas were basically don't kill, don't steal. That's a good start for a society, right? I mean, things get more complicated from there. Looks like we have a phone call. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is Mustafa. Can you hear me?
Hey, Mustafa. What's going on? Where are you at today?
I'm in Chicago.
Very good. Taking it easy. What's on your mind about Bitcoin today or any of the other controversial topics that we can't seem to stay away from?
Oh, the topic was mainly religion. It seems like you guys have been talking about religion for like 2 days straight.
Religion, politics, we're all over the what is it, the fourth wire or whatever it is you're not supposed to step on. We're all over that.
Right. But I mean, it seems like the conclusion that we've came to is that everybody has their own beliefs, and it's useless to force or try to convince someone of what your beliefs are better than theirs and vice versa. That's just a waste of time. I think it'll be a lot easier for you guys to, or for everybody, myself included, to just focus on ways how we can just coexist, and just get along. How you worship or what you believe is the world was created, how it was created, or what's going to happen when you die. Those are personal things. Keep them to yourself.
That seems fair. That's good enough, except when the personal things interfere with other people, right? When you have to have something special or you have to have something different or you can't
until you come stepping on my doorstep and telling me how to live my life, right?
That's it. That's pretty much it. Or when you come to my doorstep and tell me how to live my life. I mean, it's like either one. Like it's going to happen people with such different
It goes
beliefs.
both ways. So I think, you know, anybody can say their own opinions about things, but I kind of feel like people come up with their own opinions just from what they hear, not from what they experience. And if you experience a thing that you're saying yours is better than, most of the time you'll find that it's better for that person specifically in his life and the way he lives, and whether it's in his country or in his community, it works for him, you know, and it doesn't work for you, and for you, even if you did live in the same geographical area, it's just how you were raised, you know.
I definitely could see that, and we definitely talked a lot about it today. I don't know. I don't want to say anything else. I don't know. What do you think, Mustafa?
I wanted to put that in there, and you know, JW is pretty. He has strong opinions when it comes to certain things or most things, you know, and I think that he just needs to research some topic. That's it.
It can be hard. A lot of people they know what they know, and they're going to tell you that they know it, and sometimes they're not so much about listening to other people or listening to their ideas. So that can be a good skill too.
Actually, listening to a video just before this one from this guy called Patrick David. He has like a valuetainment thing, that like entrepreneur type channel, and it was just talking about how important listening is, you know, and sometimes. And you know that it's the right thing and you should say it right now, but most of the time, just listening for a little bit more is the smartest thing to do.
Excellent. I definitely agree with that. Thanks so much for your call, Mustafa. Give us a call anytime.
Yeah, thank you. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. And I think we're heading about towards the end of the show. We've been all over the place today. The price of Bitcoin is $7,279. People were saying it was going to break out during the show, but it looks like it mostly stayed flat. We talked about everything today, any kind of controversial topic you had. It was a lot of fun. I think we'll do it again tomorrow. Sounds fun. You could donate to our Tallycoin fundraiser right here. We're raising $1 million to spread the word about Bitcoin. We're going to get a real studio. We're going to pay people to work on the World Crypto Network. And maybe we'll even be able to go 24/7, 365. Sounds cool to me. We've got 31 patrons at patreon.com/WCN supporting the show with $234 a month. Remember, you can subscribe with as little as $2 a month at patreon.com with your credit card. You just charge it and forget it. It's real easy. We asked them to take Bitcoin years ago. They said they were working on it. Nothing yet. Over at patreon.com/madbitcoins, we've got 75 patrons donating $441 a month to support the show. You could also support us by sending Bitcoin to the QR code on your screen right now, or any of the altcoins that the Trezor accepts. Also, you can support this show by giving us a thumbs up and a share, by subscribing down below. This really does help other people find the show on YouTube or on the audio podcast, which you can check out on iTunes at World Crypto Network. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, have a great Labor Day weekend. I hear people still have the day off. It's a big holiday Monday. So go do something fun, get some exercise, get outside, eat some good food, maybe hang with your family and friends. That sounds pretty sweet. Have a good day. Until next time, bye-bye.